Before Cole Palmer and Bukayo Saka came Phil Foden. Before Foden, there was Dele Alli, and even before Dele Alli, England's next poster boy was supposed to be Jack Wilshere. But he went through the unfortunate trajectory of potential star boy to early retirement, a story we've witnessed many times before. This time, the tale of an unfulfilled prophecy is Jack Wilshere's story. The Arsenal Academy graduate who went up through the ranks to become the youngest debutant in the club's history at the age of 16 years, 8 months and 12 days came on as a sub against Blackburn Rovers in September 2008. Since then, only Ethan Nwaneri has been able to trump that when Arteta brought him on at the age of 15 years and 6 months. He is the only 15-year-old to ever play in the Premier League's history, making him not only Arsenal's youngest, but the league's as well. But focusing on Wilshere, he continued to play a part in the first team under Wenger, and at the age of 19, dazzled the whole world with a performance that will be remembered for ages. Against the undeniable world-class midfield trio of Iniesta, Xavi and Busquets, a young Jack realised that if he could beat the initial press, they could create chances against the Barcelona Superteam. He put on a show that would become the most memorable performance of his entire career and blew his image up almost overnight. First, let's map his early years and his rise to stardom, as well as the love of Arsenal fans, which is immense to this day. He is now destined to become the head coach of Norwich after a successful stint with Arsenal's under-18 team following his retirement as a player in 2022. Wilshere grew up in the Arsenal Academy after moving from Luton's youth programme at the age of 9. He watched the glory days of Arsenal from up close and saw West Ham's Pablo Di Canio as his role model. The young man was a hammer through and through. The 15-year-old midfielder scored 13 goals in 18 appearances in his first full under-18 season. He rose through the youth ranks, consistently shining in matches. Wenger, who always had an impeccable eye for young talent, often observed the youth and reserve teams play. The manager decided to promote him to the first team for the 2008-9 season with 19 printed on his back. He broke Fabregas's record to become the youngest league debutant for the club after coming on for Van Persie in 2008. He scored his first goal after just 10 days in a League Cup fixture against Sheffield United. The fans were buzzing with the performances of the young academy graduate and would cheer him on passionately. In January 2009, he signed a professional contract with Arsenal and continued to feature in the first team. In the winter transfer window, it was decided to send him out on loan to get a regular string of starts to aid his development. Owen Coyle was the manager at Burnley then and was well renowned for helping young talents flourish. But on the 20th of January 2010, he moved to Bolton Wanderers, and so did Jack Wilshere. He spent the half-season-long loan cementing his place in the team and putting up performances that showed composure well beyond his years. The young Englishman had made his ambitions of captaining Arsenal as well as his national team very clear at that young age. Wenger tipped him for doing both someday. Bolton wanted to extend his loan for another season in the summer of 2010, but Wenger refused. He saw the opportunity to use Wilshere regularly in the midfield that season. The 18-year-old was on top of the world by August when he received his first England call-up for a friendly against Hungary. The 2009-10 season started well for the youngster, who would often make the heart of the double pivot in a 4-2-3-1. Wilshere's strengths lay in his close-quarter dribbling and an excellent eye for pulling off a variety of passes. He was a tricky player to duel against in tight spaces, very similar to someone like Pedri, for instance. He was deployed in a double pivot initially, but would later also appear as the number 10 in the side. While still in school, Wilshere would play under Champions League floodlights. After coming out of their Champions League group, they were drawn up against Barcelona in the round of 16. The draw was announced just before the Arsenal squad was going out to train at their ground. Wilshere later recounted how everyone was feeling down about the fixture, and he could only think, yeah, Barcelona is good, but so what? In February 2011, Arsenal faced Pep's Barcelona at home for the first leg. Alex Song and Wilshere made the double pivot with Fabregas playing at number 10. Nasri and Walcott were on either wing with Van Persie leading the line. This was a relentless Barcelona side with a wild Messi at the peak of his powers. Arsenal didn't start well, falling victim to the high-intensity Spanish press. They went 1-0 down in the 26th minute from a David Villa goal, and Wilshere found the answer to why his teammates didn't fancy the draw earlier. But the young player's attitude is what was extremely commendable, apart from the obvious performance that night. He made a tackle, and the crowd's roar that followed made him realise the gravity of the occasion. He was living the dream, with the fans cheering him on. The midfielder had learned something very valuable during his loan spell at Bolton the previous season: how to defend smartly out of possession. Barcelona was the best possession-based team in world football and played a simple pass and move game. They would keep passing the ball around until an Arsenal midfielder broke his lines to initiate a press, which is when they would pierce through the gap. Arsenal players were used to playing with the ball, but Wilshere's experience in a defensive setup last season proved valuable in shifting the momentum. Instead of panicking in possession and being forced into a bad pass, Wilshere appeared composed with the ball and started playing as the best available pivot on the pitch. He was confident and aggressive in duels, aided by his energetic presence. Wenger had instilled a lot of belief in the players and worked on defensive positioning just a day before the game. Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets were the best executors of the third man principle. This meant that one of the three players would always find free space to provide a passing option. The small passes and immaculate decision making made it almost impossible to take the ball away from them. The youngster wrote his name in history that day after he ran circles around the trio and spearheaded the 2-1 comeback in front of the Gunners. Nasri went up to him after the game and told him he had gone to the next level and needed to become consistent with it now. Wilshere was dubbed the next big English star in the making, and suddenly he had the world at his feet. The second leg ended in a 3-1 defeat at the Camp Nou, which was shrouded with controversy by the end. Messi scored a wonderful goal at the brink of half-time to make it 2-2 on aggregate. Van Persie had picked up a caution minutes before the half ended. The second half started in Arsenal's favour when Busquets turned the ball into his own net from a corner in the 53rd minute. Then, just 3 minutes later, Van Persie was caught offside and the referee blew his whistle. But the Dutch striker took a shot towards the goal anyway in the middle of a noisy Camp Nou crowd. The fans roared, and the referee then showed his second yellow card to Van Persie, leaving Arsenal with 10 men. Wenger went wild on the touchline and couldn't believe the referee's decision. Xavi and Messi scored within 2 minutes of each other to make it 4-3 on aggregate. Even then, Wilshere managed to create a brilliant chance for Bentner to score late on and win the tie, but the substitute's terrible touch squandered their last chance to go through. He was named the club's Player of the Season as well as the PFA Young Player of the Year. He was also named in the PFA Team of the Year. The Arsenal player made 49 appearances across the season at his young age. This level of physical exertion was cited as a possible reason for what came next. Just before the 2011-12 season started, he suffered a stress fracture on his ankle during a pre-season game. The recovery estimate kept increasing, and he then had to get ankle surgery. But the youngster's greatest asset helped him through this otherwise stressful time, as he counted on bouncing back even harder upon his return, exactly like his performance against Barcelona. The resilience and determination in the youngster was inspiring to see, and one of the major reasons why the Gunners still hold him with such special regard. He missed around 15 months of football and returned to Premier League action at the end of October 2012. He started reminding everyone of the player he was 2 seasons ago, while occasionally picking up Man of the Match awards. In January 2013, he scored the winning goal against Swansea in the FA Cup. Wenger also observed how fearless he was on the pitch and deemed it to be an important leadership quality. He was given the armband in the absence of Vermaelen. The season ended with Wenger announcing that a minor surgery was required as his ankle was bothering him once again. The end of his 2012-13 campaign showed worrying signs of injuries affecting his athleticism. The next season brought along one of the greatest team goals ever scored in Premier League history, which was made and finished off by Wilshere. He received the ball outside his own box in a game against Norwich and progressed up the pitch. Then, right outside the box, Wilshere, Cazorla and Giroud played a series of successive 1-2s in quick succession, and in a flurry of single touches, the ball was somehow in the back of the net. The whole stadium was confused. How could it be that easy? It won the Goal of the Season award. He suffered a hairline fracture the same season during international duty, but returned to make a substitute appearance during the FA Cup final against Hull City in May 2014. It was Arsenal's first piece of silverware since 2005. The following November, he was ruled out for 3 months after injuring his ankle ligaments. In May 2015, he scored a stunner from outside the box on his 100th Premier League appearance. That goal against West Brom was also named Goal of the Season, which made him the only player to win the Goal of the Season awards in consecutive seasons since the Premier League started. Another FA Cup final victory led to one of the most iconic moments when he started the chant about their North London rivals during the victory parade. This was after being warned by the FA earlier for a similar chant he made the previous season. The Arsenal faithful absolutely adored him, which is why it was a massive disappointment when he broke his fibula during pre-season in 2016. An initial recovery date of 3 months kept getting extended and further frustrated Wilshere. He remained out of action for the next 10 months. The young prodigy was suddenly 24 and struggling with heavy injuries which affected his mindset. The once jovial youngster became visibly frustrated on occasion now, and the fans could feel his pain. His injury record became a massive chip on his shoulder, and even though Wenger loved the player, he couldn't keep justifying his place in the squad without consistency. It wasn't clear whether he needed a replacement or a backup. In the summer of 2016, it was decided to send him on loan to Bournemouth, where he could play regular minutes and get his fitness back on track. The Cherries were also desperate to sign a player of his caliber and agreed to even pay a loan fee on top of his wages. But the move marked a major stain on the once promising teenager's career. The sympathy-filled move away after reaching your peak at a young age is an unfortunate tale that is all too familiar in football. He won consecutive Player of the Month awards at his new club in November and December of 2016. The promising comeback was halted at White Hart Lane when he suffered another hairline fracture that ended his season. Wenger pushed away interest from many clubs to sign Wilshere in the summer of 2017 as he had the midfielder in his season plans. In December, Wilshere played the full 90 minutes against West Ham, doing so for the first time at Arsenal in over 3 years. He joined West Ham in the summer of 2018 after his contract expired in hopes of rejuvenating his career. But after only 6 league starts across 2 seasons, they parted ways through mutual consent a year before his contract was supposed to end. He trained by himself and picked up a short-term contract with Bournemouth in the Championship in January 2021. He was a free agent by that summer and called it quits on a competitive career. After training with Arsenal briefly at the end of 2021, he joined Danish club Aarhus in February 2022. In the summer of 2022, at the age of only 30, Jack Wilshere announced his retirement from football. The next Glenn Hoddle succumbed to injuries and a promising England career was over before it even started. We saw Dele Alli suffer a very similar fate in recent years, and the trend of young English stars failing to reach their potential has become increasingly familiar. Do you think Wilshere suffered due to the heavy expectations put on him at a young age, or was it only due to the injuries that hampered his growth? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching.